Mr. Atheist, first of all, let me correct you. Because evolution is not a science, never has, and never will be. Why? Because it cannot fit within the parameters and parentheses of science for one simple reason. It was never observed.
And the stupidity begins with the common creationist Christian false assertion that evolution has never been observed. I believe it's important to define our terms. Evolution is the change in the gene pool of a population from generation to generation by such processes as mutation, natural selection, and genetic drift. By this simple, well understood definition, evolution is a fact and has been observed. Now, Josh, it's only fair that I introduce myself as you've never heard of me. Names aren't important, but how we go about answering questions in life and figuring out life's great mysteries, that's what's important. And in that respect, we are both extremely different. You spout a bunch of Christian propaganda bullshit, like you have diarrhea of the mouth, without backing it up and providing evidence that it's true, but everything I say, I actually back it up. So when I say evolution has been observed, you can expect to see the evidence. I just don't know where to begin. Should we start with the classics and talk about Darwin's finches? I mean, we've all heard of them, right? The geologically young islands of the Galapagos formed less than 5 million years ago, and among the 13 major islands, there are 13 species of finches, each living in diverse habitats. Why is that? The islands are all very different. Different in size, different topography, different elevations, and that's really important when we're talking about the change in gene pools and population. Did I lose you? It's not that hard, okay? Look, larger trees grow at higher elevations. The low islands contain mostly cactus and shrub. To survive in these diverse conditions, the finches had to adapt in many ways to survive, and these adaptations include needle-like beaks, perfect for picking and eating insects, robust beaks, perfect for the lifestyle of the woodpecker finch, sharp pointy beaks to help the cactus finch tear into cacti, and the list continues. And now we know from DNA evidence that the different species of finches are more related to each other than any one is to a species on the mainlands, and that tells us that only one finch arrived to the islands and later diversified into the 13 different species of finches. They share a common ancestor, Josh. I think that's enough time spent on the finches, but is it enough time spent on the bold false assertion that Josh made? I mean, evolution has never been observed. Usually I would be done. I think I ranted enough. I'd probably stop. I'd move on to something else. But because so many Christians and creationists claim evolution has not been observed, I just want to spend just a little bit more time on this and really hammer it the fuck home. You know? Because Darwin's finches are not the only example. We can turn to the evolution of the peppered moths in England during the Industrial Revolution, in which industrial pollution from factories caused a lot of soot to be generated and dirty up trees around Birmingham. And this made white moths easy to see for their predators, and most of them died out. But before the Industrial Revolution, black peppered moths were unheard of, and that's because you didn't see black pepper moths until it became an evolutionary advantage of survival to camouflage in with your surrounding environments, avoiding predators and passing on your genes to your offspring so they can do the same. Ugh! The white moths didn't live long enough to pass on their traits, but the black moths did. And by the end of the 19th century, it almost completely outnumbered the original light-colored type. And this is a successful evolutionary mutation that occurred in a species that had their environment change drastically and rapidly. I would talk about the California salamanders, but I spent too much time on this retarded assertion that Josh made already. Thank you.
That's why it's not science. That's why it's called the theory of evolution. One man's theory. Now,
Really, Josh? You want to go down this road? The it's just a theory road? Let me explain it to you, Josh. It's not that difficult, okay, buddy? The word theory is a contronym, and that's a word with two opposing meanings. An example of a contronym would be like the word custom. That could mean a common practice that a lot of people do, or it can mean a special treatment like custom wheels or something like that. It has opposing meanings. Let me hurry up and get to my point. Alright, in everyday use, the word theory might mean a guess or a hunch or something that maybe needs proof, but in science, when a scientist says the word theory, it's not a guess, it's not a hunch, it's a well-substantiated, well-supported, well-documented explanation for our observations. A theory ties together all the facts about something, providing an explanation that fits all the observations and can be used to make predictions. Theory is the ultimate goal, the explanation. It's as close to proven as anything in science can be, like the theory of gravity. I mean, I don't see you doubting that and jumping off a building.
Now, let me show you how much faith it really takes to believe in evolution.
It takes no faith to believe in evolution.
You want me to believe that in some accidental cosmic bang, that out of that was created one cell, and from
An accidental cosmic bang creating one cell? I mean, that just doesn't make any sense. Are you really trying to intertwine the Big Bang Theory with the theory of evolution? I mean, that sentence makes no sense.
that one cell that all life springs, every plant, every animal, every single human being, and that somewhere along the way, over years and years, we mysteriously and magically all develop different wills, and we all develop different characteristics and traits.
Mysteriously and magically develop different wills? What? Well, Josh, I'm not really trying to get into abiogenesis right now, but I think you should research that. And I'm not sure how hard I can hammer the idea of changes in a gene pool over time in your head. But I'll try again, and I'll try to dumb it down for you too. Male, female, have an offspring. Offspring has mutation, natural selection occurs, positive advantage mutations are naturally selected, and over the course of hundreds and hundreds of millions of years, the small changes add up into big changes, and here we have the diverse world of Earth, in a very simple, shitty, dumbed down explanation.
All because we willed it in our... I mean, you really think that everything came from one single cell? How much faith does that take?
Well, Josh, that takes exactly no faith, because it has evidence behind it that you can look at, unlike your irrational beliefs.
I realize that you say that evolution is in science, and yet if we go back to science, the one thing that science demands, maybe you've heard of something called the law of thermodynamics, which means that chaos can never produce order.
Well, Josh, I'm not a physicist, and I'm not a genius, and I don't know everything, so when you started talking about chaos cannot produce order and all this other random bullshit, I went out and actually researched it, and of course, you were not even close to what it actually means. I mean, the laws of thermodynamics are basically statements on energy, and the first law, the one I believe that you're describing, is basically energy cannot be created and cannot be destroyed. I mean, there's a lot more that goes with it, obviously, but I'm just summing it up.
Look at the world that we live in. The sun goes up, the moon comes out, we travel around the sun, we have years, we have days, we have seasons, the tide comes in and out, everything works like a clock. It has order. And yet, you cannot argue that a world that has order came out of an accident, because it defies the very logic and laws of science.
Look at the world we live in. The sun goes up, except, wait a minute, the sun doesn't come up, the sun doesn't move from its position, it's Earth's rotation on its axis that gives the appearance of the sun going up and down. The moon comes out, except the moon doesn't come out. It's there in daylight, you just see it better at night. We travel around the sun? Yeah, I guess so, if you want to call Earth's revolution around the sun us traveling. We have years? We have days? I mean, where are you going with this? Us intelligent humans have recognized there is a certain period of time in one single Earth rotation. We call this a day. It takes 24 hours. We intelligent humans have recognized that it takes 365.24 days for a single Earth revolution around the sun. We call this a year. We have seasons? Holy shit, you finally got something right. We do have seasons. But that's from Earth's revolution around the sun. I mean, what does that have to do with anything? Tide comes in, tide comes out? Yeah, that's from the moon, Josh. It's called gravity. Works like a clock? What the fuck does that mean? This isn't like any clock I've ever seen in my life. And stop saying everything's an accident. Who's saying it's an accident? No one says that. Ooh, I'm sorry about that. He's getting me pretty heated over here, man. I hope this video is coming to a close pretty soon.
You see, you think it takes a lot of faith for me to believe in a God that created this world, a God that created order, and yet...
Yes, Josh, by the very definition of faith, you are using faith for your beliefs.
What if I were to tell you that somewhere in Oklahoma, a tornado
Oh my God.
rolls
Oh my
through a
God, he's really gonna
junkyard
do this.
full of a bunch of old cars, and somewhere on the other side of that tornado, out of that junk pile, it
Let me guess.
magically produces a perfectly red, shiny, working
Lamborghini. Ah! Josh, you willingly ignorant fool, how could you not see the fallacious agenda of your argument? You are making a horrible false analogy between evolution, specifically the evolution of the complex human body, which we know not to be man-made, to a Lamborghini, a car, which we all know is man-made.
You would tell me I was nuts. You would tell me that I had lost it. You would probably try to admit me into the psychiatric ward. Why? Because that is absolutely stupid. I mean,
yeah, of course you would see him like a fucking idiot if you said that, because we know what it takes to create a Lamborghini, and that's absurd to think that such improbabilities could occur in a tornado. And like I said, completely different. Man-made and naturally made.
how much faith would it really take to believe something as idiotic as that? And yet that's exactly what science believes.
Science believes that a Lamborghini can come from a tornado.
Science believes that in this accident,
He said it
in
again!
this perfectly working Earth with human life and with people and animals and plants and seasons and days
Oh my God,
and
he's
hours
listing
and
more random
rotates, running
bullshit.
the atmosphere, everything in Earth was created perfectly.
How do you know? How do you know we are at the pinnacle of perfectness? How do you know we can't be better? How do you know any of these things can't be better? How do you know this is perfect?
And I'm telling you, that could never happen through an accident.
Ugh.
It had to be by intelligent design. So, dear Mr. Atheist, who really has to have a lot of faith today to believe in their theory?
You don't have a theory.
Because I've experienced him, I've felt him.
Oh, you've experienced and felt God. Well, what do you say to all the people of different religions who felt and experienced their God?
But most of all, while driving through Yellowstone and Montana and so many of these natural reserves this week and looking at animals and looking at life, I don't know. I just can't look at all of that creation and say that it was an accident.
Great way to wrap up the video, Josh. A nice argument from incredulity fallacy.
I have to say that creation has a creator. And one final thought.
Oh boy.
The word universe, you believe in a Big Bang, but when I look at the word universe, it means una, which is one or singular. That's Latin, universe. Verse means a spoken statement. So universe is one single spoken statement. I dare you to read Genesis 1. And in the beginning, God said, let there be. All God had to do was speak one single spoken statement and boom, the universe.
And then he literally ends the video with the etymology of universe, which, surprise, surprise, he's fucking wrong about.